One small island built the largest empire in history. How the British Empire controlled a quarter of the world. At its height, the British Empire became the largest empire in human history, controlling nearly a quarter of the world's land and population. From the crowded streets of India to the ports of Africa, from the Caribbean islands to the vast territories of North America and Australia, the British flag once flew across continents and oceans. But how did a relatively small island nation manage to dominate so much of the planet for centuries? The story of the British Empire is not just a tale of military victories. It was built through trade, technology, naval power, politics, and sometimes brutal conquest. Its influence shaped the modern world in ways that are still visible today. The rise of the British Empire began during the Age of Exploration in the 16th and 17th centuries. European nations were competing fiercely to discover new trade routes and overseas territories. While Spain and Portugal initially dominated global exploration, England slowly emerged as a powerful maritime nation. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 marked a turning point, giving England greater control over the seas and opening opportunities for overseas expansion. One of the key foundations of the empire was trade. The British established powerful trading companies, the most famous being the East India Company. Founded in 1600, the company began as a commercial enterprise seeking spices and valuable goods from Asia. Over time, however, it transformed into a political and military force. In India, the East India Company built armies, controlled territories, collected taxes, and influenced local rulers. Eventually, Britain gained direct control over India, calling it the jewel in the crown of the empire. Naval supremacy played a crucial role in British dominance. The Royal Navy became the most powerful navy in the world, protecting trade routes and projecting British influence across the oceans. British ships connected colonies and markets from every corner of the globe. This allowed Britain to transport goods, troops, and resources faster and more efficiently than its rivals. Controlling the seas also meant controlling global trade. The Industrial Revolution further strengthened Britain's power. Beginning in the late 18th century, Britain became the world's first industrialized nation. Factories produced massive quantities of goods such as textiles, machinery, and weapons. Steam engines, railways, and modern manufacturing transformed the British economy. Industrialization gave Britain enormous economic advantages and increased its demand for raw materials from colonies. In return, colonies became markets for British products, creating a global economic system centered around Britain. The empire expanded rapidly during the 19th century. Britain established colonies and influence in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and the Pacific. Some territories were gained through war, while others were controlled through treaties and political pressure. In many regions, local rulers cooperated with Britain for economic or military benefits. However, resistance and rebellion were also common. One of the most important colonies was India. British control over India brought railways, modern administration, and infrastructure, but it also caused exploitation and suffering. Indian resources and wealth were heavily extracted to benefit Britain. Famines during British rule led to millions of deaths, while local industries struggled under colonial economic policies. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 became a major turning point, leading the British government to take direct control from the East India Company. Africa became another major focus during the scramble for Africa in the late 19th century. European powers competed aggressively for African territory, and Britain seized control of vast regions including Egypt, Sudan, South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. The British were especially interested in securing trade routes and valuable resources such as gold, diamonds, and agricultural products. The construction of the Suez Canal increased the importance of Egypt because it provided a shorter route to India. The British Empire was also deeply connected to slavery and colonial exploitation. During the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans were forcibly transported to work on plantations in the Americas and the Caribbean. British merchants and industry profited enormously from this system. Although Britain later abolished slavery in the 19th century and used its navy to combat the slave trade, the economic foundations of the empire had already been shaped by centuries of exploitation. Another reason for Britain's global dominance was its strategy of divide and rule. In many colonies, British authorities used existing ethnic, religious, or political divisions to maintain control. By supporting certain groups over others, Britain reduced the risk of unified resistance. This strategy often created tensions that continued long after independence. Communication and technology also helped the empire survive. Telegraph cables connected London to distant colonies, allowing faster communication across continents. Railways and steamships improved transportation and military mobility. These innovations made it easier for Britain to administer territories thousands of miles away. By the early 20th century, the British Empire had reached its peak. It governed around 400 million people and controlled territories on every inhabited continent. People often said the sun never sets on the British Empire, because somewhere in the world, British territory was always under daylight. However, maintaining such a massive empire became increasingly difficult. World War I weakened Britain economically and politically. Although Britain emerged victorious, the war drained resources and increased nationalist movements in colonies. Many people across the empire began demanding independence and self-rule. World War II accelerated the empire's decline. Britain faced enormous financial burdens and could no longer maintain control over distant territories. At the same time, anti-colonial movements grew stronger. India gained independence in 1947, marking the beginning of the end for the empire. Over the following decades, colonies across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean achieved independence. Despite its collapse, the legacy of the British Empire remains visible around the world today. English became one of the most widely spoken languages on Earth. Many countries still use legal systems, political institutions, and educational structures influenced by British rule. Organizations such as the Commonwealth continue to connect former British territories. Yet the empire's history is deeply controversial. Some view it as a force that spread industry, trade, and modern institutions. Others remember it as a system of conquest, exploitation, and inequality. The truth is complex. The British Empire transformed global history in ways both remarkable and painful. From naval dominance and industrial power to global trade networks and colonial rule, Britain managed to control a quarter of the world through a combination of ambition, technology, economics, and military strength. Its rise reshaped nations, cultures, and borders across the globe, leaving a legacy that still influences the modern world today.